Welcome to That Gray Area. I'm Erin.
And I'm Vanessa. We're lifelong friends entering that certain time of life that can be a bit of a gray area, somewhere between our beautiful and confused youth and wrinkled wisdom.
We'll be taking a look at what being a woman and aging looks like right now. So join us in
That Gray Area.
Welcome to episode 2, Erin.
Thank you, Vanessa.
We have tried to record this episode 3 or 4 times now, and something always goes wrong. The first time we did it, there was the thump in the audio, and the last time we did it, we didn't record it. So, who the fuck are we, and why should you listen to us, Erin?
Well, okay. I'm just going to start with a little bit about why we want to have this conversation. So, first of all, what do you consider that gray area?
I see that gray area as a place to continue the conversation that you and I have been having with one another for years and opening it up to women who are in that certain space of life like we are, where we are not empty nesters and we are not in the thick of motherhood and we are not dancing and drinking our butts off like we did in our 20s and 30s. But, you know, we're entering midlife and we're going through a lot of changes. Our bodies are changing, our lives are changing, relationships are changing. And we want to talk about it because it's happening to so many women we know and love.
Yeah.
And we want to open up the conversation to everyone.
Another layer of this for me was questioning why I feel certain ways about myself, my body, my aging, my place in society, so many things. When you're a mom, and I am a mother of 1 and a stepmother of 3, and Vanessa is a mother of 2 beautiful boys. And when you are a mother, it's very all-encompassing.
It's your whole life.
It just is. And that's beautiful. And it's the best job I ever had, really. But when the kids get to a certain age, you can kind of breathe a little bit again. And I started having a lot of questions about why I think about things the way I do. And that's a lot of what I would love to talk about on this show as well. Aging and body issues. And obviously through the lens of where we are in our lives.
Right. Having lived through a lot of womanhood, we're sort of in a place of reflection, and we're sort of in a place of looking forward, because like we have said in the past, like a lot of people see menopause as sort of the end of their days. You know, you're entering, you know, the fall or the winter of your life, and we see that as the opposite. We see changes happening with some of the women we know that are so inspiring and so positive. And one of the ways that we've definitely noticed an improvement is in how we feel about ourselves. I've lost so much of the insecurities of my youth, and I am embracing just who I am and where I am. And I would definitely think you could say the same.
Absolutely. And so a few years ago, both Vanessa and I work in television. We do different things, but we both work really long hours. Vanessa has a really long commute. And so our friendship, which is 30 plus years at this point, was really, we wanted a way to keep in touch on a more regular basis. And sometimes you can't FaceTime, you can't be on the phone because you're working very different hours and you're busy at different times. So Vanessa found this app called Polo, which is like, what did you call it? It's like a video walkie-talkie.
That's exactly right.
FaceTime on your time. So you don't...
Call us Marco Polo, we need a sponsor.
I swear, we believe in you. You are the reason we are doing this. But what's so great about it is you can talk. I call it a confessional.
Yes.
And so tell them kind of how that came about, Vanessa.
Yes. How Marco Polo works is they have a server that stores all of your conversations and video messages. So it doesn't take up space on your phone. It's not like Snapchat where they disappear. You can actually refer back to them, listen again. And what would happen is on this long commute, I was starting to go through a really difficult time in my life. I was thinking of ending my marriage of 20 years. And my father had recently passed away under pretty tragic circumstances. And my oldest was getting ready to go off to college, whom I am very, very close to. So this was really just sort of a terrible time in my life, you could say. And I would be on this long commute and I would just need to talk to my friend. And at that point, she's still sleeping. So I am leaving her these long messages. And sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're sad. But a lot of the time I was crying. I would cry polo her for days and days on end, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that I'm happily on the other side of that now, and we're all thriving. Mm-hmm. But coincidentally, shortly after that, or right around the same time, Erin was in the throes of menopause, and why don't you tell them what that looked like for you?
Well, I would like to say, if there is a terrible symptom you can get from menopause, I probably had it. I mean, honest to God, it was not good. And we'll do a whole episode on menopause, but I was suffering. And so during that time, we started just having a lot of conversations about our health and what our lives were going to look like once our kids were out of the house, and what would Vanessa's life look like if she embarked on a new adventure and ended this relationship. Just so many things about, and just wanting to change the conversation. And we always have been really good at like loving each other and accepting each other, but also lovingly calling each other on our bullshit. And not even bullshit, but like, why are you being insecure? Why are you being so hard on yourself? Think about it this way. So it was just this incredible conversation. And right around that time, it's sometime within this couple year period, it was about a year and a half ago, my husband was away working for several months. And so we threw this big all-lady shindig. And I invited some of my my kids' friends. So there was women in their like late teens, all the way for 20s, all the way to 80s. Every decade was represented. Vanessa's mom and sister was there. Our mutual friends were there. My neighbor who's 80 was there. And so it was just this really beautiful gathering of women. And
we had great outdoor potluck. And
it was so great.
And we all brought such good food.
We did. And we drank a lot of wine, and we listened to good music.
And we danced.
We really did. And I wasn't sure, and it's something about women being together, not to knock men, because I love men, but there's something about women being in a group together when men aren't around, and it really, there's just something that happens. It's kind of magical, actually, right? Yeah. You just feel free in some, I don't know, it's like Women Who Run with Wolves, that book that I read once back in the day.
Oh my God, I totally read that book.
Right?
Too. Yes.
And then we did this thing where we all wrote, so I think
a ritual.
It was in May. So I've always had a little fascination with Wiccanism. So I looked up like, what's a good Wiccan ritual we can do in springtime? And so we all wrote down.
Thinking we'd be bored and maybe wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Yeah, it was great. But it ended up, so we all wrote down something we would like to release in this time. And so we wrote it down on paper, and then we decided amongst the group that we were going to read them aloud to the group, go one by one. And
once you read it, you got to light it on fire, which was fun.
And let it go. It's very hippie, skippy, and adorable, though.
Yeah, we're not usually like that, but it was fun.
It was really great. And what was so awesome was the support that when, some people were more insecure about reading what was on their paper than others. But as, each person went around, something became very, very clear, was that we all, I don't care how old you are, if you're 19 or you're 82, we are all, as women, carrying around a lot of the same hopes and fears, right?
Yes. Everybody's paper contained some form of, I want to release fear, I want to release self-doubt, and I want to love myself more going forward.
I am like, if you're looking at me and you see the face, if you can't see me, I'm like, oh, I'm agape. I was gobsmacked because I just thought it was so beautiful. And there was such an incredible conversation. And that really sparked something in me. And I, my husband and I, we are very hosty. We love to host parties, and we are usually the place where our friends and family come for a lot of gatherings.
Because they don't like to drive anywhere.
We don't like to drive anywhere, and we really love to cook, and we don't mind cleaning.
And they're such good cooks, both of them.
It's a win-win. If you want to drive to us and we can just have our cocktails and cook for you, and we love it. But never in all the parties that we've hosted, and there are many, 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 never have I gotten more follow-up texts or emails saying what an incredible experience people had.
I mean, it was over a year ago. My mom still talks about it.
And then with COVID, what sucks is I was going to do another one this year. And
May 1st, I think.
It was going to happen. I had an e-bike.
Yeah.
Ooh. But that to me really sparked something. And then as I was going through my menopause, I am a writer. I've been a producer and a writer, but I've never wanted to ever make my own content. I've always admired people who are, I'm a screenwriter, but I do this other job during the day, or I'm a director, or whatever. Right. And so I told Vanessa that I was going to write a blog, and she was like, nope.
Blogs are so 1991.
I don't know.
Come on, Erin. We're at least going to do a vlog or a podcast.
And so that's how the podcast idea came about. And we had a different name back then, but we still had a lot of great ideas. And then
it was always like, when?
We were busy. It was crazy. You were going through a divorce. You were moving into a new place, and I was getting my health in order. And then, thank you, COVID.
Thanks, COVID.
and you got furloughed and I got laid off from a job. And I do like to say that as sad as I kind of felt insulted that I got let go from this job that I'd put a lot of time and effort into, I had a lot of guilt that I wasn't doing the work because my husband and I have both been out of work for a while. But anyway, the next morning I poloed Vanessa and I said, I can't believe I'm going to tell you this because I should be worried about money, but I feel so free. I just feel so free.
Yes.
And everything since then regarding starting social media about this podcast and what kind of content we wanted to do. And the first time, even when
we got like 30 episode ideas within like the first 5 minutes of the conversation.
It's never ending, people. But I just said to Vanessa, everything we're doing feels like so much yes.
Exactly. And for me, very similar situation. I got laid off in March and we were talking about doing this and neither one of us knew how long this would really last.
Right.
Here we are in August and we're up and running. But I was starting a new relationship right before COVID happened. And so I was really ooh gaga into that new relationship too. Mm-hmm. And one of the things in the back of our head about this endeavor was that we really, really wanted to make sure that it never got in the way of the friendship. The friendship had to come first.
Always
first
protected.
And foremost.
Yes.
So any discussion we had to have, especially I guess like in the beginning where we weren't sure whose role was going to be. And rather than feeling like the other one was not doing enough, we were both feeling like the other one was doing too much.
Yeah.
And we were just worried. You know, we were worried we wouldn't know how to talk to each other in a professional business capacity without maybe having arguments or fighting. And you know, I think we had one or two uncomfortable moments. And then it was just like, for me, I was like, I'm in fear about this. I don't want to be in fear about this endeavor. I want to be in faith about this endeavor. And like Erin, every single thing just started to go our way. Everybody was saying they wanted to hear about it. Everybody was wanting to have that conversation with us. Everybody we told about it was on board. And I just recently got the news that I wouldn't be going back to work when we thought we were. And I just remember sitting there and saying, what if that was the last time I have to drive an hour and a half each way to work? What if that last time I did it was really the last time? And what if this became our joy and our passion?
Yeah.
Because we've dived, I mean, we both have a full-time job now in this and we love it.
And what if you're free?
I do. I feel that way. I mean, I really do. I'm all goosey. Look.
See?
I'm super goosey about it. And I was like, even if like 12 people love this, for as long as we can ride this out, we're going to. Because I like Erin, I've worked in television since I was 23 years old. And I've been at CBS for 20 of those years. And I've always produced other people's content, just like you. I've always been happy to. I've loved my job. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time in my adult life that I've ever known what I wanted to do when I grow up. And that feels absolutely amazing.
And it's scary, but fuck it, you know?
It's way more fun than scary.
And that's also just part of what this whole conversation is about anyway. It starts changing the conversation.
Yes.
Why? So what if you're 51 and 48? So what if you're... Who says?
You can start a new life. You can start a new career. You can have a new dream. You can do something big.
Yeah.
And we know a lot of women who have done this. And that was another reason we wanted to have this conversation. We wanted to talk to those women and have you hear their stories.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm personally friends with two women who in their 50s qualified for the Kona Ironman championships. Like, for the first time. Like, are you fucking kidding me? These women exist. Our good friend,
I have a very close friend who's started a new career in her 50s. She got into television in her 50s, and now she's thinking she's going to get out of television and be a pastry chef because that's what she really loves. And she just turned 70, and I love her so hard.
And she's super excited about it. And she will. She'll be the best damn pastry chef ever because that woman can bake.
Oh my God. Yeah. She was at the party, and she made this apple crisp thing that was amazing. But so that's kind of what the idea of the podcast is about conversations with women of all ages. And even if you're nowhere near the gray area, you're outside of it on this end, or you're not in it yet. What I found, what made me feel good about doing this, that it might be something that women of all ages would listen to, is because that party, we all can help you. We can reach our hand down to our younger sisters and help them along, and we can look back to the women who've been through it and gain their wisdom and
share it.
And it's just a sisterhood, and it's really awesome. So, backtracking a tiny bit would be how Vanessa and I met, which was at Anna Miller's. Look it up.
It was a restaurant and pie shop in the Northridge Mall.
It was a mini chain. I think they had 7 only. And very sweet yet slutty.
Lederhosen type outfits. If you guys have ever been to the Pepper Mill in Vegas, the outfits were very similar. Short skirt, poofy sleeves. You sort of look like the St. Pauli beer girl.
Yeah. So the clientele was mostly women with babies, retirees, pervy men, and mall workers.
Yep. That was it.
Right? And
I worked there for 9 years. How long did you work there?
I was there at least 8 years, right? I think you, no, I mean.
Because I was there longer than you. Because,
were you?
Yeah, you had started you'd started your grown-up job already.
I was there at least 7 or 8. And I look back, it was a really amazing group of people. A very tight-knit group of friends.
Yes.
But
I was 3 years younger than Erin. She was way cooler than I. And so we didn't really hang out much when I first started there. But she was friends with the older crowd.
Yeah.
And pretty soon the older crowd graduated college and went off to their big lives. And Erin was sort of on the young end of that spectrum and was
so
kind
lonely.
of like,
wah, 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 where are all my party friends?
Yes.
They're gone.
So I used to always think Erin was so super cool. And I was like, one day I'm going to be cool like Erin. Because this one night, we had closed the restaurant at 9, and she comes out of the restroom so fucking dolled up to the nines. I mean, we're talking little black dress, big ass, gorgeous 80s hair, super frosty lips, high heels, and probably black tights because that was super hot right then.
And I might have had a hot pink pump.
Oh, I bet that's true. And I just remember watching her walk out going, that bitch is so cool. One day I'm going to be that cool. And then the next morning I go to open the restaurant and who walks in the same outfit? This one.
Scandalous.
This one. And I was like, holy shit. She probably had the time of her life last night. I can't wait to be old enough to go out.
Well, cut to my friends being gone and I'm kind of like now like a little lost soul and I'm sitting back in the break room and Vanessa, who we were friendly, we didn't ever hang out outside of work at that point, but we were friendly because we were all good friends, comes over as I'm sad sacking it over by myself and says, what are you doing this weekend? Mind you, not an invitation. Not like, what are we doing this weekend?
Just being friendly.
Just being polite. And I, being very full of myself, was like, well, whatever you're doing. And that was, and Vanessa loved it. And this is so quintessentially you. You're like, okay, great, fine.
I am very spur of the moment, spontaneous, go with the flow.
And I just assumed you'd say yes, because why wouldn't you want to hang out with me? I was so rad.
She's great.
Right?
Yes.
And we hit the ground running.
We
were pretty much inseparable.
We were 100% inseparable going forward. She had a awesome home environment that I just wanted to be in. You know, I was sort of butting heads a lot with my dad at that age, and I just didn't want to be home a lot. And she had this super inviting family dynamic, and tell them a little bit about that.
Well, it was a multi-generational situation happening. All women. I mean, my stepdad was around, but he was kind of close to being on the way out pretty soon. And he was the one negative energy, but that's a whole nother story. But it was my grandmother, who is a hoot and very much not a woman of her era, very open-minded sexually and just very funny.
She's a Libra.
Yeah,
she's like me.
She was a nudist and a pretty heavy drinker, but fun. I mean,
again, just like me.
Pretty fun. Pretty fun. And then there was my mother, and then my sister had moved in, and my niece was there, and I was back for a while. So there was at one point, and I would go back to visit constantly even after I moved out, but there was one point where we were all in the house together, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, Vanessa and I would go out and do our thing, be drinky. And I just think like how many mornings I would come out and I'd sleep later than you. Yeah. And Vanessa would be out there at the kitchen table with my grandma and my mother and, you know, having coffee and just talking about life. Right?
Yes.
And
it was great. I had so many amazing conversations at that kitchen table. I mean, I still remember it so vividly, you know, and in the evenings, your mom would sit there with her scotch and milk and she'd pontificate to us young ones. And she was always so interested in us, you know, and, you know, number one, she's so beautiful and she's so worldly. I mean, I think they spent time in Morocco, didn't you, she and your dad? So she just seemed so fancy to me. And she also had this amazing spiritual energy. She was just very accepting of everyone and very loving toward everyone. And I think, you know, I needed that at that time.
My mom's always been on a journey. I mean, I can remember when I was a kid and my parents got divorced, and my mom just kind of set out on this path of just wanting to better herself. And she'd be the first person to say she's not a perfect person. None of us are. But I will say she is the one who instilled in me the idea that I'm never going to stop growing. I'm never going to stop learning. And that's another thing I remember thinking at Anna Miller's, and my mom must have put this in my brain at some point too. There was a lot of elderly clientele there. And it was very clear to me that some of them had made a choice to keep living and keep growing and keep expanding. And some of them had at some point decided, fuck it, this is it. And they just kind of spent the rest of their life slowly shutting down.
Right. They just become more and more closed.
And yeah, and whatever isms they have just become deeper and more ingrained and more pronounced. And I did not want to be that way.
No.
You know, and my mom's not that way. My dad was a little that way, but my mom wasn't. And so honestly, those conversations all those years ago were probably a catalyst for all of this stuff.
100%. I definitely adopted that same growth mindset that I wasn't introduced to as a kid. And you always used to hate it when I would say this, but I was like, I don't even imagine myself growing old. I never want to grow old. I had no examples of happy older people in my life. I didn't have a relationship with my grandparents on either side. My grandmother had Alzheimer's for most of my teen and adult life, and I had no relationship at all with my paternal grandmother. And so I never saw happy old people. You know, I think June was like the first happy old person I was ever exposed to. Your grandma,
yeah,
with her cocktails and her slinky negiligés.
Oh
God, she was a hoot.
Bold red lip,
right? Oh, June, sassy vixen. But I was introduced to that mindset as well. And I would also say that a 12-step program has also helped me live in that growth mindset of Kaizen, which is the Japanese term, which we don't have a term for this in America, but it's for continuous lifelong improvement. And you said it best. You're either growing or dying. And I want to keep growing. And I know you do. We look at menopause as a beginning, not as an ending. We're definitely entering midlife, and things are a shifting for both of us. Let's be clear on that.
And not just with our bodies.
No, definitely.
Mind, spirituality, everything.
100%.
Yeah.
Like Erin completely started embracing Buddhism in her late 40s.
I did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I
It
still
helps.
can't understand it very well, but I'm getting there. My son's great at it.
I mean, and so I think for us, it's just about, like we've said before, just wanting to take this conversation that apparently we've been having since our 20s. Now that you brought that up, I mean,
Yes.
it's kind of blows my mind a little bit, actually, when somebody says something, you're like, fuck, oh wow, that was happening then.
Yes.
And we've been through everything together since then. We've been having
Yes.
conversations about everything, our ups and downs in relationships. And
Yeah, oddly, Erin got pregnant unexpectedly, and 5 months later, I unexpectedly got pregnant.
we do everything together.
We do. She's been my Sherpa all through almost everything in life. And when her dad passed, my dad passed 5 months later. When she's on the way out of menopause, and I am on the way into menopause, and so I have always had her as sort of my guide. And just touching back on what you said about being each other's confidant and keeping each other accountable. Like, we're really good at cheerleadering each other, cheering each other on.
Yeah.
We're really good at pumping the other one up and helping you look at the positives and not the flaws. And we want everyone to be that way with each other.
Yes.
We want all women to talk to each other the way we talk to each other. And I'm not afraid to say that I am really proud of our relationship and
Me too.
how active we are in caring for one another and making sure the other one is okay and learning and growing and questioning ourselves. Like, I might say to her, am I seeing this right? Like, here's where I'm coming from on this issue. And she'll be like, well, what if you saw it from another direction? And I'd be like, oh, fuck.
Or because we know each other's history, so like, well, this could be a little bit of dad stuff coming up, or this could be a little bit of
so much dad stuff.
Don't a lot of us. Don't a lot of us really thanks dads.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think that's a really awesome way to put it, Vanessa, is that creating a community
Yes.
where we can all cheer each other on, but make each other question,
Keep
hold
each other accountable.
So much of what I've thought and felt about myself and being a mother and being a wife and being a daughter and a friend and an employee. I mean, so much of my insecurity is this really weird self-imposed dialogue that I've been having. You know, we all have them. We all have our tapes that play and play and play. But just beginning to kind of going, well, is that true? And like you said, am I seeing this right? And so let's have the conversation.
Right.
And have fun and laugh at ourselves.
There's going to be a lot of laughing. And
cry together if we need to. And talk about the uncomfortable stuff. And just normalize
this
womanhood.
Yeah. If you're 50% of the population is going to be in the place we are now, God willing, you know, and what a gift that is. Yeah. You know, it's like you said, what's the alternative?
Yeah. So
not making it here.
Exactly. You know, you're going to be in the gray area sooner or later. Get here with some wisdom and some openness and
some fun and some little profanity.
Fuck yeah. And yeah, that's what it is. It's a conversation and it's a community.
Yes.
It's that gray area.
And the last thing I just want to touch on that is really important, I think, to the both of us is because of where society is right now and because of everything that's going on, you've got a lot of black and white thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, you've got some people on one end of the spectrum and some people on the other end of the spectrum. So looking at that in terms of white and black, let's say Erin's got white thinking, I've got black thinking. We want everyone to meet in the gray. Erin and I are going to approach things from very different directions. As much as we are alike, we also are just very different personality-wise. I am loud and extroverted and spontaneous and over the top, and I'm too much, and I curse too much, and I drink too much, and I talk about sex too much. And she is conservative and classy and all of those things.
And I don't know about that.
and okay, I probably drank too much in my 20s. I don't want to drink too much now. But I'm just saying we're going to approach things from a very different perspective. But we respect each other's approaches. They don't have, she doesn't have to look at something the way I look at it. She doesn't have to tackle something the way I tackle it. And I don't have to do that like she does it. But we can love each other and appreciate each other's differences without arguing over it.
Absolutely.
And I want everyone to do that.
Well, and, you know, the gray area to some, as far as an idea of, you know, living in a gray area or having, you know, a mental mindset that is in the gray area. I know there are those who would say that that's wishy-washy thinking and non-committal. And I just, as somebody who has lived in black and white thinking for so long, my true happiness came when I started not living in black and white and started seeing all the shades of gray. That's when possibility happened, transformation can happen, compassion can happen for others and myself. So
that's big.
It's huge, and it's not wishy-washy. Trust me, it's not. I've been a black and white thinker. Yeah. It's a beautiful place to be, and I just hope that you guys will come along for the ride.
It's just living in acceptance and taking that information and running with it.
Yeah.
Embracing it. Embracing all that this is right now. And we want you to come with us.
We do. All right.
I think that's about enough for today.
That's good. Yeah. When we were recording this time.
Yay!
All right, we'll see you.
We're happy you're here.
Yes.
And if you don't already, please follow us at that.gray.area on Instagram.
Yeah, and eventually if you're watching, what do they say? Hit
that like button
and hit subscribe. I don't know where
new episodes every week.
Down here.